Welcome back to Whisky Whims with me, Stuart. Today we've got Springbank Society Members Bottling, or Society Bottle. It's a 5-year-old Springbank, matured fully and fresh bourbon, 2,166 bottles, 57.1% ABV and £50 for a bottle, which is pretty cheap for a Springbank. Yes, it's young, but I think that's quite a good price. Obviously, I'll go to the conclusion when we do Whisky Win or Whisky Bin, but you know my thoughts already. That seems like a pretty good price on paper. I originally done a first look on this. I usually do a first look for Patreons, but I released it for everyone. So I'll link that here and you can check what my first opinions of this were when I first opened the bottle. But yeah, we'll get down to the review, down to the nose, the palate, the finish, and we'll see if this is a Whisky Win or a Whisky Bin. I've surprisingly not went for it as much as I thought. I thought I'd be like constantly at this, and I actually thought it'd be dead by now, but I've had it at the bottom of my shelf, and yeah, it's just one that I've not really been going for as much because I feel like I've been out of love with peat for a bit. But anyway, we'll get down to the nose. It's definitely funky straight away. There's motor oil, there's like petrol, there's banana peel, there's wet pebbles. I was just laughing at that because a lot of my work colleagues take the mick out of me for saying wet pebbles when I smell whiskey. But it's definitely there. It's quite creamy actually. There's a little bit of fudge, a little bit of a sweetness, quite minerally as well, quite mineral linking to the wet pebbles. There's like a lemon oil, something that you put in, I don't know, like some sort of burner, or maybe not a burner, maybe actually like lemon oil that you'd use in cooking or something. But yeah, quite fragrant. I think I'm thinking of like lemon oil that you'd maybe add to when you're making candles or when you're adding to something like that to make it fragrant, to give it that little bit of zestiness. But yeah, it's quite citrus, quite zesty. There's saline for sure, quite salty. Yeah, it's definitely a little bit saline, and there's a dunnage fustiness. It's definitely funky, definitely musty. Yeah, dunnage for sure. It's essentially it's Springbank. Quintessentially, is that the right word? Quintessentially, it's Springbank through and through. On the nose, the palate. Peaty, hot from the alcohol, salty again, but for me, a really nice mouthfeel, but it's quite hot on the palate, so I feel like it needs that water just to open it up. And I have had this, obviously, you can see how far through it I am, but yeah, the alcoholic presence is just a little bit too much on the palate. So we'll add a couple drops of water to it, and we'll see how that opens up the nose. We'll go back to the nose with the water. Yeah, it's changed the nose as well. It's like being at a sawmill or something like that, or a woodworking workshop or something. Wood chippings, I sawed wood. I can't really express that any more than just a sawmill or a woodworker's workshop. More coastal themes coming now with the addition of the water. A lot more like crustaceans. Yeah, more coastal breeze, kind of just the seaside. It's great. It's just what you want from a Springbank, really. It's peated. I think the peat is very evident when you first pour the glass, or it's extremely evident when you first pour the whiskey into the glass, but it subsides after a while. In the palate, that without the water, it was quite evident. The palate with the water. Yeah, there's dehydrated peaches. It's really malty. There's possibly some milk chocolate there. There's orchard fruits, like fresh orchard fruits, or maybe they've been poached. Maybe a little bit of, yeah, like stewed. There's smoke there. There's peat smoke. There's more of that kind of grimy engine, just a car garage, something like that. You go in and you, I don't know, I've never tasted oil or anything like that. Well, I've had hydraulic oil in my mouth by accident, but it's quite grimy, quite dirty. There's more of a saline element coming through, and it's quite peppery on the palate with the water, but definitely better with the water for the palate. And then I believe the nose opens up quite fantastic as well. Yeah, it's great without the water on the nose, and it does benefit from the water on the nose, but the palate's where it showcases that water, the addition of the water. It definitely needs it. The finish. Long, definitely long. It's a little like long row, and I'm not saying that just because it's long, but the whiskey just feels quite similar to long row. Maybe, yeah, I think I'd struggle to say whether this was Springbank or long row. I'd be tossed between the two. But yeah, the finish is long. There's more peat for sure. The peat's quite strong once the alcohol, once the liquid is away, once it evaporates, and you're just left with this peatiness. There's some olive oil. It's actually quite fruity in the palate, in the finish. It's quite fruity, and maybe like chocolate drops or something, or like dark chocolate drops, like a kind of nib. I don't know how else you would describe it, like a little, like what you'd get in the chocolate chip cookies, the little chips, so chocolate chips, but dark chocolate. So hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, we'll get down to the review and see if it's a whiskey win or a whiskey bin. So would I buy this again? I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I just don't seem to be reaching for it enough to think that I would buy another bottle. I think there's other Springbank that I would like to explore, other Springbank that I'd like to try. It reminds me of like a cage bottle. Sorry, I just burped. This could be something that you'd pick up from the cage. That fresh bourbon, the young age, the 5-year-old, which isn't a bad thing, but I feel like I could probably get one on the cage anyway. I wouldn't have to necessarily hunt this one down. But yeah, I think it's good enough, and I am enjoying it enough, but I'm not sure I'm enjoying it that much to buy another bottle, specifically this bottle. But yeah, it's still pleasant. The price, is it worth it? Definitely. £50. Yes, it's only 5-year-old, but last week I reviewed the Dalmanac from Fragrant Drops, which was about £75. That's 5-year-old. This is Springbank. This is for society members. It's 5-year-old and it's £50. They could be charging way more for this, and I'm not sure what the auction prices were, but I imagine they were a lot more than £50. So I think £50 worth it. And would I recommend it? Yeah. If you like Springbank, if you like a dirty, oily, grimy dunnage, peated dram, especially if you like long row, that this will suit you. And yeah, I do feel like it's more on the long row side than it is Springbank, but I don't know what the ppm of peat would be. I'm assuming it's probably not as much as long row, but it just feels, I don't know, somehow it just feels a little bit long row like. But yeah, that's all I've got to say. It's 2 out of 3. It's a whiskey win. I hope you've enjoyed the review. I've been Stuart, this has been Whiskey Whims. I'll see you later.